Good morning everyone, this is Sriram Bommakanti. I will be covering overview of SOC and design flow in this session today. Let me give a brief about myself. I did masters in University of Hyderabad in electronics and I joined Qualcore Logic Limited in Hyderabad as a design engineer, and then I moved on to AMD ATI, which was into mobile and the client SOC design. After AMD I joined Intel, and currently I am managing a design team in Hyderabad. So in this session we will cover what is an SOC. A system represents a components on the circuit board which are interconnected to achieve a desired functionality, power and performance. As individual components have increased in their performance, there arrived a situation where the interconnects have not scaled up, and as a result all these components are integrated on a single chip to achieve better performance and efficiency and power targets. So SOC represents a system on a chip. So if you see on the left side, there is a wafer where the circuitry is fabricated multiple times, and if you see that there are multiple units that are fabricated, with each unit representing a die, and these dies, either a single die or multiple dies, are connected inside a package, and this package is placed on the motherboard to achieve the complete functionality of a system. So in this slide you are seeing a transistor count and how the transistor density has evolved. Gordon Moore predicted that the number of transistors on a chip would double every 2 years, and you can see today that the total number of transistor count actually has gone beyond 1 billion mark. And if you see currently in this trend, this is a microprocessor performance trend, density trend against the timeline. You can see initially the cores have increased the performance with the increase in frequency, and the transistor density has increased. While the transistor density kept increasing, the power targets are still maintained by efficient power management techniques, and hence you don't see a blow up of power. And you would also see that with the increase in the number of cores onto a single chip, the performance has slightly increased, but eventually it has flattened. What it means is that not just increasing the number of cores, but the inherent CPU architecture has to be modified to achieve the single thread performance. And with the increase in number of cores that we are able to do with the transistor density and miniaturization, you see that the multi-thread performance can be increased. So we will see now how the compute systems have evolved. Initially there were large compute systems, and with the miniaturization and technology improvements transformed into the personal computer space like desktop computers, and you will see high performance game consoles also in that segment, and then they transformed into the laptops which are battery operated, and semiconductor and the smartphones and tablets which are again battery operated, and wearables. So with the increase in transistor density, with the shrink in the transistor sizes, we are able to pack more and more functionality into the single chip. So with this increase in the functionality and the lower form factors, we see that there is a great requirement for power efficiency and also optimal performance. While these changes are happening, we see that the battery technology has also improved significantly with more charging capacity and faster charging. And with the increase in the power density, there is also a strong requirement to have effective thermal management solutions. The compute systems continue to evolve, and lot of new applications are driving the new features on the SOCs. Gaming and advanced graphics continue to drive the new features and performance, and lot of intelligent and connected devices with smart city, smart home kind of applications where the real-time data is gathered and processed are also coming into play. With social media revolution, there is volume of data exchanged, requiring lot of network bandwidth. compute vision capabilities like object classification, object detection and classification, and further decision making are also required on the new SOCs. Natural language processing aims at providing the capability to translate the text or voice and also convert into multiple languages, and which requires the additional compute power. Neuromorphic computing is the latest trend where the inspiration is taken from the brain computing and then being implemented on the SOCs in a different manner, which is orthogonal to the current compute systems. And this is mainly aimed at achieving the efficiency, like how human brain does the computations. ADAS systems, advanced driver assistance systems, which are aimed at reducing the human errors and accidents. They will be having lot of sensors which are passing the real-time data to the central compute system for analysis and immediate real-time action. Autonomous vehicles, which are also called as self-driving vehicles, aim at providing a compute system which is capable of sensing the environment around through various sensors and taking the real-time action and also performing the driving. Let us see how the PC architecture has evolved over time. So on the left side you are seeing 3 chips. In the old motherboards you would be seeing a processor, a north bridge and a south bridge. A north bridge is also called as a memory controller hub, and south bridge is IO controller hub. North bridge connects the graphics, the main memory, and the processor and the display, and typically has to perform at very high frequency and requires high bandwidth to meet graphics and processor requirements. IO controller hub in turn connects to the hard disk drives, USB or audio interfaces, Ethernet, and also has an interface to the BIOS firmware, and this can run at a lower frequency when compared to the north bridge and the processor. On the right side, and if you see that each components, the processor or graphics or DDR, each of these components have increased their performance significantly, and also north bridge has also scaled up. Now the interface between processor and the north bridge became a bottleneck, and hence a need for integration. So now you see that in high-end systems, a processor and north bridge are merged and is called as a processor chip, which again connects to graphics and DDR and display. And you will see that the platform controller hub, which is nothing but the IO controller hub, still connects all the IO functions and also provides scalability through the PCIe slots. So further evolvement of the new form factor devices where a smaller die area and new features are required has driven the optimization and into a single die. Basically all the additional processors or the number of cores are reduced to meet the optimal area and performance requirement, while also scaling down all the IO lanes so as to still meet the product requirement at a lower power and lower cost. So the system components are not just the hardware components, it will also involve various software components, and you can see that there are various layers. Like on the hardware there is a BIOS, operating system, then there are libraries or drivers and the applications. So any major changes in the hardware or performance improvement would also require equivalent improvements on the software stack for a overall user experience. For example, if we are increasing the number of cores in the hardware, then we need the capability to launch multiple threads onto those cores, and operating system etc. schedulers should be modified to achieve that. So now we will cover various SOC components. First we will be covering what are different types of processing units and accelerators that are present in the SOC. CPU is a general purpose compute, and all the generic applications are first launched on the CPU. Performance of CPU can be increased either through frequency scaling or by increasing the number of cores, or the internal architectural changes in terms of the cache level 1, level 2 caches. And there is also an architecture which is called as a big little kind of architecture, where a high performance core and a power efficient core are both present, and based on the requirement OS can launch the thread on the high performance core or power efficient core. GPU is a graphics processing unit which is dedicated for rendering the graphics pipeline. It supports various APIs like DirectX, OpenGL used by the gaming developers. Graphics requires high bandwidth memory, high frequencies, and multiple computation units which are being done in parallel. And hence, because of the parallel execution, there is also a requirement for effective thermal management. Display engine is the block which processes the videos and images and displays on the monitor. It supports various resolutions and also the interfaces and new protocols. Multimedia represents the video encoder and the decoder blocks and audio playback engines. So image processing unit gathers the stream of data from camera and processes the image and then passes on to display. And recently we also have the vision processing units, which does the capability of computer vision like object classification and detection and classification, and the image processing as well. In addition to these systems, there are various other dedicated accelerators, or which typically are dedicated engines to cater to the specific application which may not be handled by the general purpose CPU. So the next set of components involve memories, high-speed IOs, and miscellaneous functions which are required for a typical SoC. DDR is a double data rate RAM, where it is referred as a main memory, and it supports multiple speeds. HBM refers to a high bandwidth memory which is typically used for graphics. High speed IOs are using the PCIe Gen 3, Gen 4 or Gen 5 expansion slots. They can also be used to connect the hard drives, and CXL is a new standard for the coherent link. Multiple USB interfaces are supported, serial ATA for hard disk and Ethernet, and also integrated Wi-Fi on some systems. And low speed IOs are required typically for a multi-IC communication or for the loading the flash, etc. And you might also use them for some debug consoles or for programming some of the power management ICs. There are different protocols like SPI, I2C, and UART. GPIO is the general purpose IO, which a processor can program and give an indication or control the external system. Power delivery is a crucial part. So the integrated voltage regulators and levers are required for efficient dynamic voltage scaling, so that the response is faster and hence the efficiency can be achieved. Power management refers to the piece of logic which automatically manages the hardware power states and also interfaces and executes the sequencing of these states. Clocking IP, all the designs nowadays would require multiple clocks, and all these clocks are generated on the SoC with one single reference clock using multiple PLLs. And clocking IP also supports a feature called dynamic clock gating, which is used to reduce power during the active scenarios. Thermal management involves various elements like temperature sensors. Essentially, we'll be setting the thermal limits so that in case of the increase in the temperature, a throttling can be done in the system to reduce the activity, or in case of a significant increase and to avoid a catastrophic failure, a trip can be created to shut down the system. Security is another key feature which requires the capabilities of ensuring that the boot process is secure, whatever firmware being loaded is secure, and also manages the access privileges to ensure data protection. Functional safety is aimed at the capability of the system to be able to detect and respond and restore to a safe state well there are any catastrophic issues. So this involves piece of blocks which will keep monitoring the known set of errors and then pass on the information to the onboard system reset controller. Debug is another critical feature, as we have lot of complex blocks and IPs in the system. It requires a hardware and software debug capability to be able to look into the design in case of a failure. DFT is another feature which aims at providing a logic to enable testability. This will help us in eliminating any manufacturing defects.